On August 1st, Ukrainian defense units confirmed intelligence about a large advancing convoy. This development marked the beginning of new military activity in the region. The Ukrainian side decided to respond to this advance using unmanned aerial vehicles. The drones began operations against their targets. The lead vehicle of the convoy was accurately neutralized, halting its mobility. Despite the presence of Russian jamming systems, Ukrainian drones managed to reach their targets. The operation was expanded to disable the rest of the group. One drone struck the engine compartment of a vehicle, causing damage. A second vehicle was also taken out of action shortly after. The last vehicle, attempting to retreat, was stopped by a drone strike. As a result of the 15-minute operation, the armored group was rendered unable to advance. Afterward, another armored advance attempt was observed. Tanks and armored combat vehicles appeared on the horizon, but Ukrainian units were prepared. Coordinates were relayed to artillery units, and accurate strikes halted the advance. The Russian side sent reinforcements to continue the operation. More armored vehicles arrived in the area. However, Ukrainian artillery fire rendered this effort unsuccessful. The first armored personnel carrier was destroyed by a direct hit. Ukrainian soldiers did not allow the advance to succeed. Heavy losses were inflicted using anti-tank systems. Most of the vehicles were disabled. Drones took out the remaining elements, forcing crews to abandon their vehicles. Shortly afterward, ammunition inside the vehicles exploded, increasing the damage. Despite nightfall, operations continued. 2 armored personnel carriers were detected near Ukrainian positions. To prevent an infantry landing, drones were deployed. Although the crews had abandoned the vehicles, the drones struck the stationary targets and completed their mission of destruction. The second personnel carrier was also disabled by drone operators. A group of 3 armored vehicles attempted an assault. However, a Ukrainian drone relayed coordinates to artillery units, and accurate fire struck the targets. 1 armored vehicle was disabled. At the same time, a tank was hit with an anti-tank missile and stopped. The target was completely neutralized. In this operation, Ukraine lost 1 tank and 2 armored vehicles. If you support Ukraine's fight for peace and independence, you can write Slava Ukraini in the comments. Also, by subscribing to the channel, you can help ensure the continuation of this content. Later in the day, another armored vehicle attempted to advance toward Ukrainian positions. A drone struck the rear of the vehicle, disabling it. Later, another armored vehicle hit an anti-tank mine. Although it kept moving, drones carried out the final strike. A Ukrainian soldier fired a rocket launcher, followed by a drone attack targeting the ammunition, damaging the vehicle. A Russian tank was also targeted. Ukrainian drone operators quickly intervened and struck the engine of the vehicle. A second drone strike rendered the vehicle completely unusable. Intelligence identified the coordinates of an air defense system. Ukraine's HIMARS systems struck the target, neutralizing the ammunition and disabling the system. Shortly after, a self-propelled howitzer was also taken out in the same way. A multiple rocket launcher, abandoned by its crew, became the target of Ukrainian air assets. Bombs hitting the launch tubes triggered uncontrolled rocket fire and chain explosions. Another howitzer targeting Ukrainian positions was also struck by a HIMARS strike, destroying both the weapon and its ammunition. In another area, a Russian tank retreating hit a mine and was displaced by the force of the explosion. Once again, the war proved to be a multidimensional and interconnected battlefield. Different operations are carried out on every front, with interrelated developments occurring across all areas. The impact of drones on the battlefield goes beyond disabling armored vehicles. They also target the enemy's mobility, logistics, and psychological resilience. This new reality forces operational planners to adapt. The timing of attacks, coordination of reconnaissance sources, and security of supply lines have become as decisive as sheer firepower. Every link in the logistics chain has become a potential target. Fuel resupply, spare part deliveries, ammunition transfers, and technical maintenance stand out as vulnerable points. Neutralizing depots, truck convoys, or temporary supply hubs can instantly eliminate sustainability in the field. This halts troop mobility. In such an environment, elements with logistical flexibility gain the advantage. Small dispersed supply hubs and creative use of local resources are vital. Electronic warfare and intelligence form the foundation of modern conflicts. Jammers, radar suppression, and cyber operations directly affect both sides' ability to conceal or reveal actions. The accuracy of target coordinates obtained through intelligence determines the effectiveness of shells and missiles. At the same time, protecting communication links of unmanned systems is essential to boost their effectiveness. Recon data from drones accelerates target selection, while cyber attacks targeting logistics software can disrupt supply chains. Air assets, though limited, play a critical role. Close air support suppresses enemy positions and backs artillery strikes. High-altitude bombardments target logistics centers and ammunition depots. However, air superiority remains a shifting factor. The presence or absence of air defense systems determines aircraft operational range. Therefore, coordination between air and ground assets is indispensable, requiring constant communication to prioritize targets and minimize civilian risks. Infantry and airborne units continue their core tasks, holding positions, analyzing intelligence, marking high-value targets, and preventing enemy infiltrations. Small infantry units working in coordination with drones, artillery, and air support can now neutralize targets that once required far greater resources at a fraction of the cost. This demonstrates how asymmetric advantages are applied on the battlefield. The psychological effect is decisive for both sides. Armored groups swiftly disabled and unexpected losses have major impacts both at the front and behind the lines. Successful defenses boost morale, while heavy losses shake units, causing drops in motivation and operational effectiveness. Propaganda and information operations amplify this psychological dimension. Radio broadcasts, social media posts, and visual recordings turn battlefield developments into strategic narratives. The effects on civilians and infrastructure cannot be ignored. Strikes on logistics centers and depots can disrupt civilian supply chains, causing outages in electricity, water, and healthcare. This highlights the importance of humanitarian corridors and safe evacuations. Environmental damage, fires, fuel leaks, and exploding ammunition depots can also cause long-term negative effects over wide areas. With regional and international actors involved, the diplomatic front is becoming increasingly complex. Weapons supplies, intelligence sharing, and sanctions play major roles in reshaping the balance of power on the battlefield. Global public opinion applies legal and economic pressure while also trying to ensure humanitarian aid reaches those in need. Training and preparation have become as critical as technology and logistics. Short tactical courses improve coordination between drone operators, artillery teams, and logistics crews. Simulations and real-time assessments allow quick lessons to be learned after each operation. This learning cycle brings more flexible and adaptive approaches to both small and large units. Ukrainian forces manage to maintain their cohesion and motivation based on the clear strategic goal of defending their land. In contrast, intercepted communications and drone footage show that Russian soldiers often hesitate over orders and sometimes abandon their positions after limited contact. The constant tempo of Ukrainian operations and the damage inflicted on Russia's high-value assets highlight this psychological advantage even more. Another Ukrainian strategy is building a layered air defense network. Aircraft attempting to drop glide bombs or unguided rockets are forced to operate at lower altitudes and near the limits of their range. This creates opportunities for Ukrainian air defense units. Each loss further restricts Russia's ability to provide close air support for its ground forces. With dwindling Russian supply depots and reinforcement transfers delayed by Ukrainian operations, some sectors of the front face resource shortages. Ukrainian forces exploit this situation with surprise local assaults backed by mobile artillery and drone groups. Even small gains in these conditions are significant, creating staging areas for future operations and forcing Russia to shift resources from other sectors to reinforce threatened areas. The coming weeks are expected to see even more intense Ukrainian activity. Additional long-range systems are being deployed to target critical infrastructure in Crimea and the occupied southern coast. Ukrainian engineers have improved many frontline supply routes, enabling faster delivery of ammunition, armored vehicles, and medical support. Constant rotation of assault groups ensures that combat fatigue does not reduce operational effectiveness. At the same time, Western-supplied air defense missiles and counter-battery systems are being integrated into Ukrainian plans, offering extra protection and offensive options. New drone types with longer range and greater payload capacity give Ukraine the ability to strike targets once considered out of reach. In short, Ukraine's strategy does not rely on a single decisive blow, but on steady and methodical attrition, combining pressure on logistics, targeted strikes on command structures, rapid local assaults, and constant air surveillance. Day by day, position by position, Russian forces are being pushed into a defensive posture where neither their supply lines nor their morale are adequately prepared. If this tempo is maintained, it is highly likely that additional strategic sectors will come under Ukrainian control, paving the way for broader operational developments. The systematic neutralization of artillery, disruption of rear logistics, and successful counter-air operations have already begun to shift momentum. What we are witnessing is not just a series of isolated battles, but the gradual erosion of the enemy's ability to coordinate, resupply, and sustain frontline forces. Slava Ukraini! Don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel to support the struggle for peace and independence. Your support gives us the strength to continue sharing this important information.